Hey everybody, Brian Good here for the earliest alerts, and then tomorrow I likely will, by the way, try to get to a Facebook Live, and then we'll likely be able to switch back to Snow Talk, and we'll cover that thought too, by the way, before the blog video here today ends. Let's talk about today. First off, we had a secondary front that came through overnight. It's now bringing with another batch of clouds right along the Ohio River, and that's going to allow for a cloudy period for a while here for the next few hours. The NAM model has done a great job on picking this out in the past couple of days. And so with that north wind, along with that cloud deck, a bit chilly out, I know, and it's going to be through at least lunch. And then we'll get these clouds to break up, and we'll get some gradual sunshine later on. Meanwhile, to the west is our setup here. Look at this river of moisture just being funneled in here on the jet stream from the Pacific Ocean right into California. That is what's feeding this low that's deepening here across the western area of the country in the Rockies, and then that's going to be the system that's going to give us problems for Saturday. And Storm Prediction Center went with a marginal. This was anticipated for Saturday. It's still iffy because of instability, but I can see why it's certainly not zero, and I think it's a good move to at least mention a lower end potential on this. And let's look at the ingredients here. First off, looking at the wind belt that's above our heads as we head into Friday night and Saturday. The winds really ramp up. It's a slow dig zone. Watch how we really enhance the winds over hurricane force aloft as we head into early Saturday morning just to our west as we head throughout the midday, early afternoon. Very strong winds right in the heart of Kentucky. You can almost draw, really, even though these are not surface winds, you can pretty much outline this is where all the wind advisories are going to be at. Don't know if we're going to get to high wind warning criteria, as a lot of you guys have been already asking about. Criteria is over the 50 mile per hour mark, and or at least frequent gusts to 50. That's possible. I'm not going to rule it out, but right now I think wind advisories is certainly a likely idea coming our way. And these are the winds aloft we're looking at Saturday afternoon, and then here's where the front passes in. The winds do relax briefly, but here comes the backlash winds. But this time around, the winds are coming from the northwest, and that's a much colder wind. So it is going to be chilly Saturday night with wind chills in the 20s, it looks like. And then we'll finally calm everything down as we head into Sunday, though still a bit breezy. Now I'm going to show you the same thing, but this time I'm going to add in the potential for instability to see if we can gain some thunderstorm action out of this to see where they begin to overlap. So as we head into Friday morning, no problems. Now Friday night, we begin to see the instability develop there across the head of the surface low across northern Missouri. There's the strong wind pocket popping up, though, ahead of that over us during Friday night. Then as we head into the midday, early afternoon hours on Saturday, there's where the instability is showing up. And yes, there is some overlapping there that is worth noting. On the western side of that strong wind belt, right in through here, is where there is some overlap, and we need to watch for the potential for severe. And if you were to remember that slight risk, or the marginal risk that came out from the Storm Prediction Center, it pretty much, if you were to draw it, looks like that, right over that wind belt and instability axis, kind of overlapping. So there is still potential for lightning and thunder and maybe some enhanced strong winds. And then as we get into the evening, everything kind of fades out there. So having said that, let's look at the RPM, our in-house model here, to show you kind of at least what the surface features look like. As we head into Friday night, overnight, strong south wind. We'll be warming up all night long. I mean, Evansville already at 60. We'll be approaching 60 here in Louisville. Spotty shower, can't rule it out through Saturday morning. That's possible. But really the bulk of the rain is going to come with the actual front, and that's going to put us around midday Saturday through about 4 p.m. That's the main time period for the rain. But it does pick up an idea some thunderstorms would develop along it. If it's not going to be thunderstorms, it could be just a heavier enhanced band of rainfall, of course with no lightning. That is possible, but even that can be just as dangerous if they were to have lightning with them, because it doesn't really matter on lightning or not. It's a matter of how much these clouds can build up along the front to tap into that strong wind belt aloft, where that, again, the axis of overlapping happens. So we got temperatures in the mid-60s potentially. We got this band of enhanced winds approaching severe limits potentially out of this Saturday midday, early afternoon. It moves by them and get the northwest winds to kick in as in the later the afternoon period. So that's fairly fast on this process. Now, the one decent change that I've seen in the data in the past 24 hours is that we're starting to see signs that snowflakes could generate in the colder air aloft. The cold air is going to be filtering in, and there could be the potential for perhaps some snowflakes to get mixed in with the rain. I'll at least mention it, but I got to stress it's not going to be a big deal. No travel issues with that, and most of you will likely not even notice it. All right, it's going to be that minor of a deal. The wind chill is what you are going to notice. And again, wind chills in the 20s, I think, are likely as we head to Saturday night as those northwest winds just howl all night long. So it's a very quick event here, guys, but a lot of changes from sunrise Saturday to sunset. So buckle up and hang on tight there when it comes to this. Now, let's look at the wind potential. This is just a model interpretation. Potential wind gust. The high-end numbers, gust early in the morning on Saturday, getting close to 50 to our west, well into the 40s here. Then as we head toward the afternoon, keep in mind it's not picking up the thunderstorm potential very well, so you got to add about 20 to this for these the severe winds along the actual line of thunderstorms. If they were to develop, add about 20 to these numbers, and that's their potential. And you can see why they would certainly get into warning criteria. Warning criteria, by the way, is 59 miles per hour. Then as we head into the evening, still got this northwest wind. It's not showing up here, but it would still be gusty at times, allowing for those wind chills. So here's the bottom line on this, guys. The impact really from this entire event is going to be Friday night into Saturday night. And that the range of that, the majority of the impact for that whole period is the wind part. Rainfall-wise, it's mainly going to be spotty showers until we get to the closer to the front timing, which would be, again, midday through about 4 o'clock. Rain totals up to a ½ inch, but I could see certainly pockets could get up to 3/4. Marginal severe risk, we talked about that. So overall, the general winds have the potential to gust up to 45 miles per hour early in the day all the way into Saturday night. But those thunderstorms will then push us over the limit. And that's what we got to track, and we don't really know how well that's going to play out for us until we get into the day of this event, guys. So we'll be down to the wire on this one, it looks like. All right, so what's after that? Well, after it breezes on by, we do have for Thanksgiving week, for the travel day, another little piece of energy is going to try to drop in. As we head into the travel day, it'll drop us down temperature-wise, and as it tries to lift back out, there could be some sprinkles with that. It's showing snow in the Ohio Valley, or at least the Great Lakes. That's possible, some maybe lake effect snow. Not a big deal on that, guys. I really think it's even going to be a big travel issue for even Chicago O'Hare if you have plans to travel there by plane. Overall, a decent travel setup here. It's just going to be a bit chilly, but nothing extreme. Okay, and then we'll try to warm back up again before we have another front that approaches that following weekend. So overall, Thanksgiving week is really quiet. We'll monitor that because the models have been fluctuating a lot on next week and how that is going to evolve. And I'm sure it's because it's the system coming in this Saturday is so dynamic. It's kind of throwing everything off a bit down the road here for next week. But we'll watch it. All right, guys. But I can tell you right now, I don't see any cause for concern. So we'll fine-tune that later. I want to mention the Japanese model updated its winter outlook. And take a look at this. This is interesting. Of course, here's the United States on each one of these maps. Here is the September outlook for the water temperature. Here's October's update, and here is the most recent update. Notice it had cooler water off the Pacific Ocean for the September update for this winter, which would allow for more of the troughiness in the west coast and more of a ridge in the east, which would indicate more of a warm winter for us. Then when you look at the October update that came in, it started to warm up a bit. Part of the Pacific waters, but still a bit of cool water right along the coast. And then the most recent one still is warming things up, even more so. Now, I know it's still the southeast is relatively warm as through the entire forecast period, but we're starting to see more colder water in the central Pacific, and then a warmer bubble, if you will, to the east of that, south of Alaska. That is what we call more of a Maduku kind of look to the El Nino, La Nina kind of status out there in the Pacific Ocean. But it's interesting to see the shifting that's happened. So when you look at the temperature forecast on land, in September it was forecasting a mild, warmer pattern for us, colder west. That makes sense given the water temperature forecast. Then the October update, it shifted, warmer here, in a more expansive area. And now the most recent update, it's trending either neutral or colder now for us, as we're starting to see a change in the water temperature. So the ocean temperatures are crucial in how this is going to play out, and we'll be monitoring that as we get closer in time. By the way, how well did it do last November for forecasts in the winter for temperatures? Well, this is what it forecast November 2016 for the upcoming winter of 17. Warm. And that's what we got. Also want to mention organic forecasting update. It took out that snow chance anyway for the rest of this month. I agree with that. But it did keep them there for December. Still around Christmas time. It's still showing up, guys, and it did increase the chances as far as how many of them are showing up in January into February. And again, these are chances. Doesn't mean how much snow we're going to get. It just means there's potential for snow, and that could be anything from a flake to something measurable. But in general, you see that at least the organic forecast and the Rossby waves are still going with a colder setup, but I think it's still going to be a fluctuating kind of deal for us with the first chance at a flip happening in December. So let's see how it plays out, guys. We'll look at that more once we get past this mess on Saturday.